All right. All right. Simmer down, everybody. We're fine. Everything's fine. There's nothing to worry about. Bad teams, or excuse me, good teams lose series all the time, Even if you win 100 games, you lose 62 of them. So I'm not hitting the panic button at all over this series. It was an annoying series, yes, but I'm not pressed about it, Hold on, there we go. Not pressed about it at all. Yes, it was an annoying series. The Phillies lost 2 out of 3 to the Milwaukee Brewers at home after winning the first game. It's frustrating. It's annoying, especially after last night's game made this game all the more annoying, but it's fine. Like, I'm not panicking at all. Yes, it sucked, but win the series in Cleveland and everybody forgets that this even happened. First of all, welcome back to .NET Phillies. It's been a wild week this week. We have some good news. We have some bad news. We talk about the bad games, the good game. Blah 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 blah. Reminder: August 10th. I'll remind you at the end of the show too. Reminder: August 10th, 6:40, 1 year live stream extravaganza. We will be here. We'll be walking through the Nationals Phillies game. We'll be doing commentary, having guests on, all that fun stuff. So look forward to that. That again is August 10th, 6:40. Be there or be square. So in today's episode, we got headlines. We'll go over the Phillies series loss to the Milwaukee Brewers. Another edition of the most garbage show to ever grace the internet. Where are they now? And finally, wrapping it up with the series preview against the Cleveland Guardians. This is the Phillies' first ever series against the Guardians because they were previously called the Indians and now they're the Guardians. So, see what I did there? Thank you. You can call me a genius and everything. So headlines, I'll start with the good news and then we'll get the really bad news out of the way. And I think if you're a Phillies fan watching this, you know what the extremely bad news is. The good news is the Phillies officially signed their 2023 first round draft pick, Aiden Miller. He is now officially a member of the Philadelphia Phillies organization. So congratulations to him. They had him interviewing on the game. Seems like a really good dude. And I say, sounds like a really good kid. He is the same age as me. Old. Hold on. How is he? How old? Oh, this is going to date me right here. Hold on. How old is Aiden Miller? He is, dude. I'm assuming he's like 22. How old is this dude? I'm assuming I'm older than him. Just put it that way. I'm gonna start doing the research in dead air. I'm older than him. He seems like a good dude. Seems like very, well put together, excited to this organization. And, looking at all the other smart baseball people, it seems like the Phillies got a steal with Aiden Miller at the pick. And now the very, 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 very bad news that one would say something that should have happened at the beginning of the season, but they decided to wait it out because that works every time. It was confirmed yesterday that Andrew Painter will indeed need Tommy John surgery. They tried to wait it out and there was some healing, but upon further review and consulting with the doctor, he is unfortunately going to have to get the surgery. And again, I don't understand why waiting has ever worked. Yes, it worked with Aaron Nola, but the success rate of that is extremely low. And you have a guy in your bullpen right now, well, not right now because he's on the IL, who you tried to do this with, and he ended up needing Tommy John surgery. So I don't understand the waiting for Painter and oh, he might need the just get the damn surgery and he's back for maybe the middle of next year. Instead, he's going to miss all of this year, all of next year, and half of 2025. Yes, he's still going to be 22 by the time he eventually gets to the big leagues, but this halted him back a while here. He was big league ready this year. So, and yes, I don't get the needing to wait this long to make this decision. This decision should have been made 4 months ago. And yes, in the long term, it's a marginal decision. But for right now, it made no sense to wait 4 months until you're like, you know what? Yeah, let's get him the surgery. It's comparing apples to oranges, I guess, at this point, but it's frustrating because we've seen it not work in your own organization with Sir Anthony Dominguez. He had that partial tear. Oh, wait it out. Wait 5 months and go. Guess what? He needs Tommy John surgery. I don't get it. I think they knew this was going to happen, which is why, Dylan Covey is still on this team, which is why whomever is still making starts. I mean, Chris Sanchez, but he's earned that spot. We'll talk about Chris Sanchez when we talk about the series, but it just made no sense to me for waiting this long for Andrew Painter to get that decision to get Tommy John surgery. I really don't. I don't understand it. I understand. Well, I get from the aspect of you want him to not be halted in his progression towards Major League, but he's not going to be throwing for 2 full years now. And who knows what he's going to look like when he comes back? Who knows if he'll even be in the big leagues? And yes, he's 22. It's not like he's 28. By the time he gets back, he'll be like 30. He's still going to be a very young prospect, still very, and I'm not, it's just annoying. And again, in the long run, in the grand scheme of things, the 4 months ain't going to matter, but it's still annoying that this decision wasn't made earlier. But that's besides the point. There is something, and I'm going to go off script here. I mean, I don't have a script that I say everything that I write down. A lure off the scheme about the trade deadline. The trade deadline is coming up, and I see a lot of people talking about the Phillies trading for Juan Soto, and it is there's a lot of contingency to it. That's all contingent on the fact that Bryce Harper can play a solid first base, thus allowing Kyle Schwarber to slot into the DH. And we obviously didn't see Bryce at all this series playing first base, which Thompson said was his decision ultimately, his as in Rob Thompson. So I don't understand why we didn't see Bryce, which makes me a little concerned in terms of what they're going to do with the trade deadline, because I feel like a lot of what they're doing right now is riding on the fact that Bryce can play first base 3 to 4 times a week, and you get Schwarber out, and then you go upgrade at a corner spot. Even then, I would even put Marsh in left field and have Rojas in center. Rojas has not proven himself, but he hasn't given us a reason not to be playing every day. He was swinging a hot bat in Double-A. He's worked really good at bats, out or not, in the big league level. I would give him a shot in center field, because then if Bryce can't play first base or can't play a good first base, then you're going with the Bohm Hall tandem at first, which has been a disaster in terms of Hall's production. And we'll talk about Derek Hall once we get into the series. But it's been a disaster. And then Edmundo has also been a disaster at third base. Kind of feels like the wheels are falling off here. So a lot is riding on Bryce Harper playing first. But if that doesn't happen, you have Hall, Bohm at first. You have Bohm and Sosa manning third. And then the outfield is, consistent of Schwarber, Marsh, and Casty, which is, whatever. But then do you trade for a first baseman? Like a Paul Goldschmidt, a CJ Cron, a Christian Walker. I doubt the Diamondbacks trade Christian Walker, but a guy like that. Or do you just ride that out? Do you then go after pitching? Like, I don't know what the Phillies' main need is, or what the main need they're targeting is. In years past, you could tell they needed another starter. You could tell, they're going to need bullpen help, and every team needs bullpen help. Even the Phillies, who, by the way, since June 3rd, have the best bullpen in baseball, not in the National League, in baseball. The Phillies, you can always use a better bullpen arm. Get Covey out of there, or get Bilotti, who's been a disaster this year, very disappointing. Get him back in AAA for another guy. Or like a bat. The Phillies haven't really traded have a bat in a while at the trade deadline. 2019, I think, was the last time they got a bat at the trade deadline. It was Corey Dickerson. And no, Bour was 2018, and that was even a waiver claim. I guess, yeah, 2018 was like Asdrubal Cabrera and Wilson Ramos. 2019 was Corey Dickerson. 2020 was Hembree and Workman pitching. 2021 was Gibson and Kennedy, which was pitching. And 2022 was Robertson, Syndergaard. I guess Marsh, but that they weren't trading for him to be like an impact guy. They were trading because this was his future was going to be here. Like, he was a work in progress. Like, I'm talking about a guy like they're getting, and you're getting immediate production immediately. I'm assuming, I can't remember. I think Corey Dickerson was the last guy that they traded for that was like a guy. But back to my original point about Soto is, I don't know if I want to blow up our farm system to get him for a year and a half. I really don't. Sorry. I don't know if I want to trade the whole farm system for Juan Soto for a year and a half of Juan Soto. I don't know if I want that. Because his defense is not great out there. And yes, his bat is a generational talent, but if Bryce can't play first, you can't trade for Juan Soto. And it's as plain and simple as that. And the fact that he didn't play first at all this week tells me that they're worried about his play at first. To me, I don't know, but I don't know if I want to trade for Soto just because it would cost you Abel, McGarry, Rojas, something else, because the Padres practically blew up their farm system to go get him. They traded Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams and a bunch of those guys to the Nationals, and now they're trying to rebuild that farm system. I'm assuming, I don't know how, I think they should just trade off a few other guys like Hader, like Soto, like who else is on? I don't know. Nobody else of real value there that's on an expiring contract. But if you trade those guys, you get some decent pieces back. And I don't know if I'm the Phillies, I want to do that because the Phillies are finally starting to get a solid farm system with Preston Mattingly manning the development stuff. And, I don't know if I want to do that. I think the Phillies are in a very good position right now moving forward, that they can develop these guys a little bit and not be so reliant on the free agent guys because currently right now, you look around the diamond, JT, free agent signing. First base, Hallbaum, good. Second base, homegrown. Shortstop, Trey Turner, signed. Third base, Sosa, Bohm. Sosa was brought in via trade, so I guess not. Schwarber brought in. Marsh brought in. Cassidy brought in. Rotation, Nola, homegrown. Wheeler brought in. Walker brought in. Suarez, homegrown. Sanchez, kind of homegrown. He was traded from the Rays organization. And then the bullpen is always just going to be a smorgasbord of guys that you bring in and can draft and develop some guys. And, every bullpen is not fully 100% guys that were brought in or guys who were developed. So the bullpen, I give you a pass, but Phillies are right now getting to sustainability, in my opinion, in terms of their farm system and everything. So I think I would hold off on trading for Soto. That's just my opinion. Everybody has theirs. There's some people that agree with me. There's others that don't. And I'm fine with either because trust me, I'm not going to say no to Juan Soto on my team. I'm just saying if I'm Dave Dombrowski, I'm not blowing up the system that we finally got going underway and drafting good talent and developing these guys. I'm not going to blow that up the second I can get a year and a half of Juan Soto. I'd much rather just go after him in free agency because by that time, Schwarber is going to be on an expiring contract. You might be able to trade him away if need be to bring in a Soto, or by that time, Schwarber can be your DH for a year and Harper, it can be your first baseman at that point. But I that's just me. I wouldn't sacrifice the future to to get Soto right now. That's just my opinion. But I figured I just needed to talk about that. Now I'm just going to take a drink before we get into the disappointing Milwaukee Brewers series. All right. All right. So the Phillies lost 2 games out of 3 at home to the Milwaukee Brewers. The only game they won was game 1. It was a really good game. My player of the game was Aaron Nola. Nola was great. 7 1/3, 5 hits, 2 earned run, no walks, 6 strikeouts. He was perfect until the 5th inning when Raimel Tapia broke that up on an infield hit. So you could just tell, like with Aaron Nola, you can tell when his stuff is just zipping and he's on. You can tell within the first like 2 batters when his stuff is dancing. And this was one of those games. And like I always said, or like I said in the last episode, who is the tone setter of the Philadelphia Phillies? That would be Mr. Kyle Schwarber, because on the first pitch from Julio Teheran, hit it out. 1-0 Phils in the first, and then you have Bone with an RBI ground out in the second, Casty with an RBI single in the third. And then, for the people who say, oh, Schwarber can't be leadoff, Schwarber can't be this. Schwarber had an unreal defensive play where he like leapt up the wall and reined it in like Mr. June. Old news, Mr. July is here, and his name is Kyle Schwarber. Unreal defensive play from him. And then Andrew Monasterio had an RBI double in the 5th to get the Brewers on the board. And the inning would have ended, but Derek Hall dropped the ball. That would have ended the inning. And Bryce Terang made him pay with an RBI single to make it 3-2. And then, I'm just done with the Derek Hall experience. Like, I am just over the Derek Hall experience. I don't know what else to say. He's not great defensively. He sucks at the plate. He provides nothing of value right now. He really doesn't. And I expected more from him because he was raking in AAA. He gets up here and he dookies the bed. I don't know. You have to play him there, at least until Bryce is there playing first. But I'm done with Derek Hall. Like I don't know what else to say. Like, he's not good. And I think about the things I would say about Hoskins. And I would much rather take Hoskins, and I think everybody and their mother would take Hoskins over Derek Hall right now, because everybody was calling for Hall when Hoskins was struggling, myself included. And here it is, and it's disappointment. He's not an everyday player. He at best he's a lefty thump off the bench, but even then it's not good. It's if this doesn't tell you you have to re-sign Rhys Hoskins, I don't know what does. But just I'm over Derek Hall. I'm over it. He sucks defensively, sucks offensively. I'm done with him. Anyway, speaking of sucking, JT Realmuto with runners in scoring position might be the worst player I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, this guy comes up, I feel like almost every at bat, and just strikes out with runners at like first and second, like one or nobody out, and just refuses to get an RBI or a clutch hit in a clutch situation. He's had a very bad year. I'm very disappointed in his year, but at the same time, yes, he's getting older, but he's just been a shell of himself, it feels like. I feel like we're still waiting around for the JT Realmuto hot streak, and it's still not here. I just feel like I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for him to kick it into gear, and it's just not doing that. He's just bad this year. His defense has not taken a shot at all. He's still one of the best defensive catchers in the league, but guys are stealing on him a lot more. I don't know if this bigger bases are playing into that. It has to be, because a lot of these bang bang plays that he would have last year would count for outs, and now the guys are beating him because of that little that little extra space that the bigger bags give you are negatively affecting JT, except they're not negatively affecting the opposing catchers against us, because I feel like we get caught stealing all the time. And last night's game was an example. But that's neither here nor there. The wheels started falling off a little bit in the eighth inning for Aaron Nola. He allowed a couple hits to lead it off. Then he got a strikeout, and then he was pulled for Gregory Soto, which made me extremely nervous. But luckily, he just got Yelich to ground into a fielder's choice, and then he got a ground out to end the inning. The Phillies had 3 errors in this game, which is not great. Kimbrel had one of them in the 9th. He was trying to throw a pickoff move and threw the ball away. Runner at second, 2 outs, and my heart rate was just beating out of my chest. But luckily, we were good. Oh my god, my head itches so badly. I don't know why. But it was a solid game, but even then it was not, but yeah, it was I really don't know how to describe this game, but I mean, they won. So, and it's the only game they won in this series, which is, again, frustrating, but I'm not pressing the panic button at all. So now we get to game 2. The Brewers won 5-3. I'm trying a new thing. It's the player of shame, which is a player that I single-handedly blame for the loss. It's a new thing, and I hope I might be sticking to it. Who knows? My player of shame was Edmundo Sosa. Had that error in the 2nd inning, which led to 3 runs for the Brewers. And if they don't get those 3 runs, the Phillies win. So my player of shame, Edmundo Sosa, because that led to a Blake Perkins RBI double and a Christian Yelich RBI double, both in the 2nd to make it 3-0. But then in the 3rd, Marsh hit a leadoff double and led to nothing. Casty got him on the board with a solo home run in the 4th. Schwarber tied it with an RBI single, and then you're like, all right. And then William Contreras, who just absolutely bodied us this entire series, had an RBI double in the 7th to make it 4-3. And then again in the 9th to make it 5-3. So I got to give a positive to come out of this was Christopher Sanchez, 5 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. He has just been solid for the Phillies in the 5th starter spot. He's just been reliable, which I didn't think we'd get out of Chris Sanchez, and I feel like I say this after every one of his starts, that it's just been reliable. And people are like, well, they lose every single one of his starts. Well, he's only given up 3 runs max in a start since being recalled. Let me pull up the numbers for Chris Sanchez, his game logs, because people were like, oh, they need to trade for another 5th starter, which I agree with, but to say that he's useless right now is a little ridiculous. You know what I mean? A little ridiculous. So in his starts since being recalled, he's given up the highest amount of earned runs he's given up is 3. He did it against the Mets and against the Padres. That's it. That is all you want out of your 5th starter, is a guy who's going to give you 5 to 6 innings, 3 earned runs or less. And that is quite literally exactly what he has been doing ever since he got recalled. So I don't know what else people want from Chris Sanchez. This is the best you're going to get from him. And he's kept the Phillies in games. That's all you can ask for from a 5th starter is keep me in games. Keep us in games, and we'll got your back. And if it wasn't for Edmundo Sosa, they win this game. So that's just what it is. Bryce Harper had a very odd at-bat against Hobie Milner, Phillies legend Hobie Milner, where he literally took 6 pitches, just took them all, just was getting ready, and just put the bat down, and he's out. It was 6 pitches, and he was out. But Bryce didn't even try to square him up, didn't try to do this. I don't know what it was, but it was weird. Bohm also had a very good play at third base from the left field grass, was able to throw out, I forget who, but a really good stretch by Derek Hall too. Andrew Bellotti has been a massive disappointment this season, in my opinion. He was a guy that I had very high expectations for moving forward, because he had a very good year last year, and I was hoping that he would be able to build off that and maybe even be better, but he's just been a shell of himself. He went an inning, 2 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and a strikeout. His stuff isn't biting as much. That slider he throws isn't cutting, and his fastball's sitting 93, 94 instead of like the 95, 96, 97 we saw it got up to last year. So massively disappointing, massively disappointed in Andrew Bellotti so far. So it just kind of sucks, but what are you going to do? Hoffman, an inning and a third, no hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Strom, 2/3, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, no strikeouts. Marte, clean inning. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It was just an annoying game because it was just 1 inning that screwed them up. And that was because Edmundo Sosa didn't do his job at third base defensively. So, and then we get to the 9th inning, which was very frustrating. You go against Devin Williams, who is one of the best closers in the game, one of the best relief pitchers in the game, the guy who took over for Josh Hader, the guy who practically made it okay for the Brewers to trade Josh Hader. You get a couple hits off of him. You have first and third, 1 out. And for whatever reason, with your best RBI guy up, you run Bryson Stott. He gets thrown out. And on the very next pitch, Bohm strikes out. And that's the end of the game. You got to be patient. You got to be patient with Williams. You know that changeup's coming. You just be patient with it. You don't run. Just don't run an extra base hit. Stott, you're scoring. Completely took the wind out of the Phillies' sail in this 9th inning because it felt like they were getting to Williams a little bit. He seemed a little rattled, and that swung the pendulum right back to the Brewers, which sucked, but what are you going to do? And then the Phillies lose that game, which was annoying. And then there's not a lot to talk about with game 3 because Corbin Burns just shoved it up our tuchuses for 8 innings. My player of shame was Derek Hall because I'm over him. He went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. And the only blip was Yelich had a 3-run homer in the 2nd, and William Contreras had an RBI single in the 7th to make it 4-0, and that was it. Phillies didn't do anything, didn't get a runner to third, didn't do anything at all. Walker, 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts was pretty solid. Can't complain. And then you had Vasquez, an inning, a hit, no earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Then Dylan Covey, 2 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, 1 strikeout. It was just a frustrating game. It was a getaway day for both teams, and seems like the Brewers were the only ones that came to play because, yes, you're going. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I don't know what's gotten into me. Yes, you're going up against Corbin Burns, who should have been second in Cy Young in 2021, but apparently throwing 65 less innings and worse ERA is better than a guy who throws over 200 innings with a better ERA, but that's neither here nor there. You're going up against a guy who is a former Cy Young Award winner, who is one of the best pitchers in the National League. It's going to be hard to score off that guy, but, he shoved it up for 8 innings and just sucked. It sucked to watch. It was a boring game. It sucked. The Phillies couldn't get anything going. Even when they did, they just were grounded to a double play. So very annoying game. Frustrating, but again, not hitting the panic button at all. This stuff happens all the time. You saw the Braves lose 3 out of 4, and nobody's hitting the panic button over in Atlanta. So I'm not worried about this at all. It happens. Move on. You win against Cleveland, and everybody forgets about this. So that's that. And that will do a wrap on the Milwaukee Brewers series. Let me get another drink. Delicious. So we are now moving on to another edition of Where Are They Now? The worst show on the internet. This is a series in which I take a look back at the famous names of guys who have thrown innings for the Phillies over the past years, from 2018 to 2021, the competitive years, dare I say, under Gabe Kapler and Joe Girardi and Rob Thompson. And I got three guys who are interesting. One is a fan favorite and still loved to this day. One is a guy that I've wanted for years, and then when he actually came to the Phillies was a massive disappointment. And another guy is a guy who just can't catch a damn break. My first guy pitched for the 2021 Philadelphia Phillies, was known for his beard way before Brandon Marsh was, and that, of course, was number 23, Archie Bradley. Like I said, Archie Bradley was a guy I wanted on the Phillies for years that felt like a perfect fit, and then they actually went out and got him, and boy, golly, did he not be good. He was fine. He was annoyingly fine. So Archie Bradley was selected by the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first round of the 2011 MLB draft. He was originally drafted as a starter, and in 2015 actually made their opening day rotation. He spent 2015 to 2021 with the 2015 to 2020 with the Diamondbacks. He was moved from the rotation to the bullpen prior to the 2017 season. But with the Diamondbacks, 404 and a third innings pitched to a 3.96 ERA, so pretty fine. At the 2020 trade deadline, he was traded to the Cincinnati Reds for Josh Van Meter and Stuart Fairchild. Fairchild is on the Reds, or no? Where is Stuart? Isn't Stuart Fairchild on the Reds? Hold on. Did he go back to the Reds, or am I just like stupid? Give me a second here. Trust me, this. Stuart Fan. Is this a different? No, he is. How did he get back there? Hold on. I'm going into. Oh, okay. So Fairchild was drafted by the Reds. He then was traded for Archie Bradley. And then he was traded to the Mariners. And then he was traded to the Giants. And then the Giants DFA'd him. And then he was picked up by the Reds again. So he ended up back on the Reds, Mr. Stuart Fairchild. Because I recognize that name. I'm like, wait, isn't he on the Reds right now? He is. But back to Archie Bradley, 7 2/3 innings to a 1.17 ERA. So really, really good for Mr. Bradley. That prompted the Phillies to step in and sign him to a 1-year, $6 million contract for the 2021 season. He was injured for the first few weeks of the season, and then pitched in 51 innings to a 3.71 ERA. So he wasn't awful. He wasn't great, but he wasn't awful. It was a guy that I was very disappointed in. Like, I thought he was going to be this guy who was going to show up, big personality. And yes, he has a very big personality. And he was just very disappointing. A guy that just struggled a lot. It felt like a lot of inherited runners scored on him and allowed the long ball a lot. Just very, very disappointing from Archie Bradley. And then after the Phillies in 2022, he signed a 1-year, $3.75 million deal with the LA Angels. And with the Angels, 18 2/3 to a 4.82 ERA. He actually broke his elbow on June 26th during a benches clearing brawl, which did not end his season, but it sidelined him for a while. And he kind of has never been the same since. Obviously, the sample size is very small. After the 2022 season, he signed a minor league contract with the Marlins. And with the Marlins in the big league club, 7 1/3 to an 11.05 ERA. He was actually DFA'd recently. He cleared waivers and was outrighted to AAA Jacksonville with the Miami Marlins. So he currently is residing in the Marlins system. And I looked it up. I thought he would be like 34, 35 years old. Archie Bradley's only 30 years old, which is baffling to me. Just absolutely insane that he's only 30 years old. It feels like he's been in the league forever, but seems like if any team is going to fix him, it'll be the Miami Marlins, because if there's one thing they know how to do, it's develop pitching and figure out pitching. So good luck to you, Archie, because yeah, we're a pain in my you-know-what when you were here. My next guy is a guy who seemed like he was going to be really good, and then quite literally just has not been able to catch a break, but maybe he is now. And that is a guy who threw 39 innings for the Phillies between 2018 and 2020. That would be Edgar Garcia. Where are my Edgar Garcia truthers out there? All I remember is Edgar Garcia wore 41, and that felt sacrilegious to me because of Charlie Manuel. It's the only thing I can remember about Edgar Garcia. So Edgar Garcia was signed as an international free agent by the Phillies in 2014, originally as a shortstop, but they really saw something in his arm, so they transitioned him to a pitcher. He spent 2018 to 2020 with the Phillies. He made his major league debut on May 6th of 2018. 39 innings to a 5.77 ERA in his career with the Phillies. He then was DFA'd in 2020. He then was traded to the Rays in that same year for Rodolfo Sanchez, 3.1 innings to a 10.80 ERA. He was non-tendered in December. He then was picked up on a one-year, $600,000 contract by the Reds. He made his debut for the Reds on July 19th of that year. 4 1/3 to a 16.62 ERA. He then was DFA'd in July 28th. He then was claimed off waivers by Minnesota July 30th. Through 10 1/3 innings to a 10.45 ERA. He elected free agency after the 2021 season. Was then given a chance with the Nationals in 2022, in which he spent the entire season in their Double-A affiliate. 24 innings to a 6.38 ERA. He then promptly left Major League Baseball, signed with the Frederick Atlantic League team in the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. He in 7 games to a 14.21 ERA. He was released on June 4th of this year. And then in July of this year, he signed with the Fargo Moorhead Red Hawk of the American Association of Professional Baseball. And so far, 5 innings to a 3.60 ERA. So poor Edgar Garcia has just not been able to catch a break. Moving from organization to organization, there's been no stability, no consistency for him to be listening to the right people being like, throw this better, or throw this arm slot, or do this. It feels like it was as soon as he would get a little consistency, he would be called up, and then not just not good. And the worst team to spend an entire minor league stint with would be the Washington Nationals, because they suck at developing pitching. But again, 5 innings, 3.6 ERA for Edgar Garcia. So we're coming back. The comeback tour for Edgar Garcia. Dave Dombrowski, get on the horn. If anybody can fix him, it'll be Caleb Cotham or whoever our minor league coach is. I forget, but that's Edgar Garcia. And now our final guy of this episode. Oh, God, a guy that it just hurt me. You know that meme of that guy holding the gun? He's like crying. I'm going to pull it up because this is exactly how I felt facing him. Like this meme. Like this. Like that meme is how I felt facing him at all last year. Because he honestly was the highlight of like the rebuild years. Even in the competitive years, he was amazing. And then the Phillies promptly chose Jeurys Familia over him. And yeah, I'm of course talking about Hector the Protector Neris. Hector signed as an international free agent in 2010 by the Phillies. He made his major league debut in 2014. He then spent 2014 to 2021 with the Phillies, 407 2/3 innings to a 3.42 ERA. And he was major in that bullpen. You know, he struggled in 2018, but then he came back in 2019 and was dominant. Same thing in 2020, and he was excellent in 2021. And it was a guy that I really wanted the Phillies to re-sign after the 2022 season, or excuse me, after the 2021 season, but they then prompted to spend that money on Jeurys Familia, and Hector signed a 2-year, $17 million deal with the Houston Astros. And obviously, Hector won the World Series against the Phillies with the Astros. So that is World Series champion Hector Neris to you. I'm very happy that he got his ring. It sucked that it was against us. But for him, I'm very, very happy because he was one of my favorite players watching during the bad years of 2010s. And it sucked because 2 years we could have matched that. 17 million for Hector. We should have matched that. We should have. And I wouldn't be shocked if Hector will come back here next year after his contract is up with the Astros. But he's been great for them. 106 innings to a 2.89 ERA. He's been fantastic for the Astros. So maybe they won't let him go. But if he's a free agent, if I'm Dave, I'm righting my wrong here and bringing Hector back. I think the fan base would love it. The clubhouse guys would love having him back. I know they would make fun of him or he would make fun of them for beating them in the World Series, but yeah, I do miss me some Hector. And now we're on the final segment of the episode, our series preview versus the Cleveland Guardians. So we have Ranger Suarez versus Gavin Williams, Zach Wheeler versus Tanner Bybee, and Aaron Nola versus to be determined, to be announced. So, I mean, the Guardians are a pitching heavy team. They've been like that for years, you know, where their offense is kind of put into the back seat, and their pitching really stands supreme. We're facing not their main guys. Obviously, Bieber and Gore are hurt right now, so we don't have to worry about facing those guys, but they still have studs. I feel like every year there's a new stud that comes out of the Guardians rotation system that we've never heard of before that just pitches to like a 3 ERA in 200 innings. But I think with Ranger, Wheeler, and Nola, those are your 3 dogs going in this series. You know, Ranger looking to kind of bounce back and right the ship a little bit. And I think this is a really good offense to do that too. Wheeler is coming off a start, which he was fine. He was pretty good. And Nola looks to, again, I feel like I say this after every good Nola start, build off of what he did in his last start. So it is very heavily favored in the Phillies. That being said, you know, they're still a major league team. You know, they're still a good team. You know, you got to come out and you got to come out hard and heavy and be able to beat them before the 9th inning, because you get to the 9th inning and then you face Emmanuel Clase, who is arguably the best closer in baseball. So you don't want to face that guy, or you'll have to face Enyel De Los Santos, who is also a major key and a major back end of the bullpen. So I love that also, that freaking Enyel De Los Santos is a major stay in that Guardians bullpen. That's what I say to you, bud. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, August 10th at 6:40, we have the 1-year live stream extravaganza. So make sure you're tuning into that on YouTube. It's going to be right here on this channel. So look forward to that. Feel free to like, subscribe, follow all socials down below. I've been releasing some spicy TikTok content. So if you want to check that out, by all means, the link is right down below. Thank you guys again so much for listening, and I will see you guys Sunday. See you.